So what we had seen yesterday is about the uses of assembly models. Okay. Now today we'll see about the simplification of assembly models. That is the next level. So what we have seen till now is in assembly is to create the part, then to assemble, having surface contact, point-to-point contact, then having it to be in line with the center of the axis if it is there, right? So like that. And the next thing was to have the bill of materials to be produced along with the drawing. Then if there is any changes to be made in the part, then it also has to get updated into the assembled model also, right? So like this, so many other features that we had seen. So the next thing is about the simplification of these assemblies. So now if you take about, say for example, smaller assembly parts, okay, just like a screw jack or a plumber block, which has got only some 7 to 10 parts, or in some cases even up to 20 parts. Okay, so they all can be, we can, even when you go in for analysis or for further processing, we can analyze that everything in detail. So for every part, every smaller part that it consists of, even a washer, what is this? If you are going to do an analysis, then what is this stress strain that is going to fall onto the washer? All this can be seen, but that is okay for when we have smaller number of parts in the assembled manner. But when it goes for, say, for example, for an automobile engine or an automobile vehicle, it can be a two-wheeler or four-wheeler. There are thousands of parts, first of all, in an engine. And when we take up the entire vehicle, there are more number of parts, more than thousands of parts that is being present. So when we are going to take that same assembled model in a system, I mean on a CAD software or a CAM software, or especially for analysis, it takes a huge space just to incorporate all those parts. And the next thing is that all that features has to be displayed one after the other, because even though when we have, say for example, the entire vehicle to be seen, okay, where inside that it consists of every part. So that is the assembled view that we have. And in that case, when we say, for example, we go for hiding of some of the uh, components, or going in for sectional view, when we do all such things, it has to have the capability to immediately process all the parts, even a nut and a bolt or whatever, even the smaller part, everything it has to process, and it has to display, which is a very very huge task. So like this and all, when they do, and especially for analysis also, when it is going to happen, when they are going to have too many number of parts, getting it into for the analysis model, I mean software, and doing the analysis, performing the analysis is a very big task, because the first of all analysis performance, it takes a space of the computer. Plus, when we have very, very so many thousands of parts lax together, then in that case, the analysis will take a very huge time, because it requires actually a supercomputer, just to say in simple words. So that is the kind of complexity it is going to have. But how do we? But how are they performing the analysis or another further processes on the software by having the entire model? Then then how are they going to do it, or what is the way? That is the need for the simplification of assembly. So we have to simplify these complexities to for us to perform, to do the analysis or whatever further processing, and get better results as much as possible. Okay, so one way is to use the instancing. Okay, as already discussed, this instancing, okay, is to simplify the significance of the model, okay, of the parts that is commonly used. That is, what is this? Excuse me. So fasteners, nuts and bolts, so they're all usually standard shapes. I mean standard dimensions like M10, M8 nut, right? So like that, and screws also have got standard pitches and all, right? So all those can be used as a as an instancing. Nothing but to say in our common terms that we have come across, it's like a template. Okay, so when we use those things in a vehicle, there are so many times the same nut and bolt is being used, the same washer is also going to be used, right? So all this, when you put it as a template, it will not occupy too much of space. So the complexity of solving it for further processing is being reduced. That is one of the approaches that is used in simplification of the assembly. The other technique is called as agglomeration. In agglomeration, what they are going to do is that, so say for example, we are going to consider that have to go for analysis of the entire vehicle. Okay, so when we go for analysis of the entire vehicle, what they will do is that, uh, say for example, they have to study what is the stress and strain and other things that is going to happen onto the chassis of the vehicle. Okay, it can be a two-wheeler or it can be a four-wheeler, anything. Okay, so when it comes to chassis of the vehicle, okay, the overall load should be known, right? That will get exactly when we have all the parts to be designed, that is the engine, the gearbox, right, and all other features, because the engine gearbox itself is a much more heavier component, right? So when all these things are being placed, and then we want to analyze what is the stress and strain that is going to fall onto the chassis, okay, then in that case we cannot have, already engine has got thousands of parts. Now we cannot take that and put it onto the chassis, fit it onto the chassis in the modeling software, import it into the analysis software, and then go for analysis. So in that case, what is going to happen? Everywhere the linkages has to be given, proper mesh elements has to be chosen, right? So otherwise we cannot do the analysis. So in that case, what they will do is they will simplify this. So what they will do is that the entire engine block, which has got consisting of so many parts, will be combined together as one single model. Okay, will be combined as one single model. Okay, and the overall weight of that will be placed onto that particular location where the engine should be mounted onto the chassis in the vehicle, right? So because as of now, for this example, we need to find out what is the stress and strain applying onto the chassis once we fit the gearbox and engine and so on. So such models, so all such features can be modeled as one single part. Okay, say for example as a rectangular or a square cube. Okay, and that can be placed into the suitable position onto the chassis, fixed, so that all that load is going to be appeared onto the chassis. So because there we don't need too much of in detail of the fastener, piston ring, connecting rod, all that features is not at all required for the analysis. So that is called as agglomeration, where we are going to simplify the entire model. Okay, so almost all the different assemblies, okay, like the engine, gearbox, and other things are going to be taken as a single part model and going to be placed onto the vehicle for analysis purpose or for any other purpose, and it is going to be done so that meshing problem, selection of selection of linkages, selection of element type, all these things are avoided, which is a very time consuming process. That is the first thing. The second thing is solving such problems. When we simplify the models, we are going to get better results, almost close to the accuracy only, at a shorter duration of time. So this is another technique that has been usually followed in the industries when they have more number of parts. So that is why the simplification of assembled view is very much required. Okay, so yes, so here that is what has been actually explained in this paragraph. So geometrical intricacies, two tiny parts, all these things, the distances, all these things are going to be ignored for the further processing. And this is very much used in the FEA analysis, and also for kinematic analysis also it is very much used. And similarly, when it comes for CFD analysis also, where they need the body of the vehicle to be assembled, but whatever the engine and gearbox, all to be, they don't need every part of that for CFD analysis, because all the CFD analysis is going to be carried out onto the surface of the body, that is the vehicle in this case, right? So in such cases, all this has to be simplified. If we don't simplify this, then it is going to be a huge time consuming process, right? So that is why simplification is required for the assemblies for further processing, right? Yeah, so the next thing is, so yes, so the next thing is the web-based modeling. So what is this web-based modeling in today's world? Uh, say if we take up a MNC company, uh, or even whatever it is, especially automobile sectors, aircraft industries, and so on. There is a headquarters situated in one location. There is another analysis team working on, say, for example, if it's a automobile company, there are a particular design team working on engine. There's a design team working on the chassis. All these teams will be spread out across the globe in different places. Okay. So for this, what they need is that all these teams have to have an interconnectivity to access the files, the drawing files, then to access the analysis files, modeling files, right? And this has to be done only when all they are interconnected. That is, their systems have to be interconnected, or they have to use some other means where they can import and export or exchange data from one team to another team who are situated at different places across the globe. Okay, right? So in that case, for all these things, what we need is the internet. Okay, so we need to make use of this internet where our files have to be stored in the main server, and this files can be accessed by the teams who are present in other locations for their further processing. Okay, right? So what they need is to make use of the internet. So that is why the even the softwares have come up with a particular type of file, that is DWG or DXF files, right? Where it can be also uploaded onto the internet, so that the other team can access it through the internet and do the required changes or required further processing that they need. Okay, right. So this is because there's clients, vendors who are situated in different parts of the world also, right? So this has to be made accessible for them so that they can make use of the data given by the company. Okay, right. So for this, so one of the thing is that they can browser can type in the URL, okay, where it is called as publishing the geometry model. Okay, we have to uh, publish this model onto the website, sorry, not onto the website, onto the internet, where it should be accessible only for particular people, not it should not be published in general. Okay, right, where anybody can access it is only for restricted access only for certain people. So all these geometry models have to be uploaded onto the internet. Now, as of now, for the internet, it can carry images, that is the JPEG file. It can have the letters, words, and paint files and so on things. But what about geometry files, which has got a different format, which has got a drawing format, uh, uh, what then DWG format or DXF format, and so many other STL formats are there, right? So for this, they have to have a common format that is acceptable by the internet, as well as which can be downloaded from the internet and can be used for again for a CAD on a CAD software or a CAM software. So a particular file format has to be required. So one of that is called as the VRML, virtual reality modeling language. Okay, so that is one type of the format that is generally used to upload these files onto the internet so that people can access this. Okay, right. So in that, one of them, uh, so some companies have come up with different formats in the beginning, which is the computer graphics meta file or the Autodesk, that is the AutoCAD software, which is the almost the preliminary CAD software that had come up. They had come up with DWF formats, okay, that is drawing web format, okay, which is where these files can be uh, loaded onto the internet. And similarly, for standard the VRL standard file format in 3 dimensional, that is for assembly models, part models, where and data, all such things uh, also can be used by using the CMG as well as DWF format. And these are especially for 2 dimensional ones. Okay, but there are some limitations that were there where VRML. So whenever we change from one format to another format, there will be some loss of the accuracy, and larger file sizes were also a problem, right? So there used to be some loss of accuracy. So even this we can see whenever we do model in the CAD software and import it into the analysis package, then we will see that some data is being missing because sometimes there is data loss. So the next thing that they came up with, the improvised version, is the hypertext markup language, okay, which is very widely used in today's world, okay, right? So that is what we generally call it as HTML, which is a high definition language where it can store more amount of data with lesser losses, okay, right? So these are some of the types of formats that is used for our modeling systems, that is especially for CAD, CAM, and CAE files that can be accessed through the web, okay, which can be shared through the web, okay, right? So this is the need for the web-based modeling, okay, that is there, right? So these are some of the formats that is going to be generally used in the web-based applications. Okay, so yes, yeah, with this, this chapter is over. So next thing is that we shall go into now whatever we have seen till now is all about the hardware of the system, some understanding about the process of the system, how the display is going to happen, how the data is going to be stored, and some features that we require for the modeling uh, and for designing purposes. The next thing is that, but we have not seen, the thing is that whenever we spoke about the curves or lines, we have not spoken about how they are being calculated and such things. So how do we represent and give the data for the system when it comes especially for the representation of lines and curves, and where we are going to modify the curves to get the required shape, especially in modeling, right? So that is there. So for this we will have to see about some of the uh, understanding and equations of how the curves are represented for the system onto the system. So first thing is that we'll see about the types of curve equations. So in the types of curve equations, what we have is, the first thing is that these curve equations can be classified into two groups. So one is the parametric equation, which relates it to the XYZ coordinates of the points on a curve. The other one is a non-parametric equation, which directly relates to the XYZ coordinate. Okay, so the non-parametric will relate it directly to the XYZ coordinate, but in the parametric equations, they are going to be related by some other means, okay, to the XYZ coordinate, because however the curve is going to be, it has to be somewhere within that space of XYZ axis only, right? Okay, so these are the two things that the curves can be, the same curve can be represented in two forms. One is the parametric equation, the other one is the non-parametric equation. So each one of these, either we represent it in parametric equation or in non-parametric equation, there are some plus and minus points. some disadvantage and advantage based on the application. So let us see first of all what is this parametric equation and what is this non-parametric equation. So a parametric equation is that, say for example, if we take up a circle, okay, and we have to represent it, uh, this circle in parametric form, okay, and we have, so for a circle there will be a center, it has got a radius, right? So we want what is this point, and it has got an angle theta, right? It has got an angle theta. So what is this value of x? So it has got x comma y value for this point onto the circumference. So what is the value of this x over here onto this particular circumference that we know, that we need? So that can be represented as x is equal to r cos theta, right? Okay. So so here if you look at it, so if I just draw one half of this, and this is the radius, and this is the r. So I want it to, at this particular point, let's make a big dot. So I want the value of x over here. Okay, I want the value of x, and in this case the angle is over here is theta, if you know the angle, right? Right. Okay, so for this, if I have to reach here, it's nothing but the x is equal to r cos theta that we are going to have. So similarly, if you want to have the y value, it's going to be y times, sorry, r into sine theta. And since it's only two-dimensional, z value will be 0. So how far can this go up to is that, so a circle is going to vary in angle from 0 to 2 pi, that is 360 degrees. So representing a equation like this consisting of cos theta, sin theta and all are in the parametric form. Okay, so this is the parametric form of representing a circle when we put it in terms of equation, parametric equation. The next thing, the same thing can be calculated by using the non-parametric form, that is without using the theta and all those terms. So a circle equation can be written as x square plus y square minus the r square is equal to 0. That means because the circle is going to be a 360 degrees, so it has to be equated to 0. So if we have to find out what is the y value, yes, then we can put it in terms of this. So it's going to be plus or minus square root of r square minus z square. Okay, since it's two-dimensional, z is going to be 0. So that is why z is not at all accounted in 6.2 equation or in 6.3 equation also. Right. So now the moment that we get plus or minus, yes, we still get an answer of the y coordinates, but it has got two values. It will be one with the same number, say for example 6.3. So one will be plus 6.3 or the other one can be minus 6.3 also. So representing in terms like this, avoiding the theta, phi symbols and all is called as non-parametric form of equations. Okay, these are called as non-parametric form of equations. Okay, so yes, so now let us go to few more things into this, right? Okay, so yes, so the next thing into this is that we generally make use of the uh, parametric form of equations, that is x is equal to r cos theta, y is equal to r sin theta. Such type of equations will only be used when we uh, give the input equations to the system. Okay, we will not make use of the non-parametric form of equations because for the same value they will have two answers. So that is a disadvantage. So it can be onto the positive side, it can be onto the negative side also. So that is the disadvantage over here when we make use of non-parametric form of equations. So this is the reason why we don't make use of non-parametric form of equations into the system for building the file. Okay, especially in CAD softwares, we don't make use of those because to avoid confusions. So that is the disadvantage of this non-parametric form of equations. So the next thing is that the moment that we go in for a circle, say for example, when we go for a circle, right? When we make a circle, right? And when we zoom in and when we see, this circle will be actually made up of very small straight lines, n number of straight lines to form the circumference of the circle, right? So it is actually all these things are made up of straight lines only. But when we go in for the general view, the zoomed out view, it will appear to the required shape. So how does this happen? So what we are actually doing is that we are going to convert smaller segments of lines connected with each other to get the required shape. Okay, and when we look at it and on overall, we are going to appear. It is going to appear as a curve only, as a smooth curve. But the moment that we zoom in and we see, it will be joined by several straight lines. It will be made up of several straight lines only. But all these straight, small segments of straight lines have to be connected. So what is the incremental distance for the smaller straight lines that is to be produced? That's the first question. The second one is that, so the intersecting point, so with one to another, it has to be joined. All the straight lines have to be joined. So what is the length of these segments of lines and what is the interconnecting points has to be found out for the curve to be represented. So for this, in the curve, the equation to represent the curve, what should be the segment of the line, what are the points, intersecting points or joining points have to be should also be calculated so that the display is going to be represented only according to that. So smaller segments of lines, each segment of line to be connected with one another, right? So those two things will also come into picture. So that is what is explained in this particular graph. So we need to often calculate the points on certain intersectional, interval along the curve, okay, which is called as the curve equation, okay, right? And this has to be represented. So we should have a finite number of uh, segments of lines so that when the zoomed out view in the normal view it has to appear as the same shape. If it is not going to be like that, then even though we write a circle and the number of lines, the smaller number of lines that is going to form the circumference of the circle is not correct, then it will no longer look like a circle, it will look like a excuse me, any other enclosed diagram. It can be in any irregular shape. Okay, right? So this is very much required. What should be the intermediate values? What should be the smaller? What should be the length of the smaller lines? Okay, right? So and these have to the incremental distance, that is the smaller lines have to also have to be evaluated whether it is okay or not. Okay, so there are, so if you choose an independent variable, two values are going to appear. One is the positive and negative value. So if we have to obtain this, then this is going to depend upon the dependent variable. So every time we are going to select a neighboring point from the last drawn. So that is what is going to be helpful. So we are going to have one line here. So this line is going to be helpful to draw the next line, then the next line, and this previous line that is already present to draw the next line. So that is the previous smaller segments is going to be the baseline for next curve, because that will determine at what distance and for what angle this next smaller line has to be inclined, to what angle it has to be twisted, right? So that is why this is required, right? So yes, so here this is the uh, this is the about the parametric equations and non-parametric equations. Okay, and next we shall go in for the conic sections. Okay, in the conic sections, what we generally have, usually what most of the shapes will come across this. So if we have a cone, So yes, so if we have a cone, if we have a cone that is being drawn, now uh, cutting this cone in different forms will give us different sections. So if I, as we already know, if I cut it just with a sectioning plane horizontally anywhere along the height of the cone, we will be able to see a, if I cut over here, then we'll be able to see something like this, a circle. Okay, and this will be the base of the circle, right? So if we are going to slice it perpendicular to one plane and parallel to the other plane by using the sectioning plane, so anywhere along the height of the cone we'll be able to get a circle. So it's the same thing. If we are going to cut it along like this, then we'll be able to get an ellipse, right? So, and similarly we can get a hyperbola also, right? So that is, if we do it like this, and whatever the shape that we get over here will be like a hyperbola, right? So all these things can be obtained. So this all depends upon uh, the sectioning plane. But all these things that is obtained is nothing but a form of curve. Ellipse is a form of curve, circle, hyperbola, and so on things. So for all these curves, we do have equations. Okay, and these are the primary equations that is to represent these curves, which is very much helpful to get the drawings either in wireframe mode or in surface modeling or in solid modeling wherever we have curved surfaces. Okay, right. So the first thing that we'll be looking into is all about the it's going to be about the circle, because that is the simplest form. Okay, so yes, so for a circle, okay, so for a circle, so let us assume that we have a circle only onto the xy plane. Okay, so let me draw that. So we are going to have a circle onto the xy plane whose radius is r. Okay, and okay, right? So and uh, at the center the value is going to be xc and yc. That is the representation of the, so what they are told over here in this paragraph is that the circle is somewhere over here and this is the radius r. Okay, and the value of this is going to be x comma y. So it is at certain distance from the center uh, of this x and y axis, right? So if we have to have this x and y value, so it is going to be r cos theta. So if we have to have the point anywhere onto the point onto this circumference, r cos theta plus xc, that is the distance from the x-axis, right? So that is the distance. So if I want to have this particular point, okay, so it is going to be r cos theta and plus it is at a distance from the x-axis, which is the xc value, right? So that is needed for this. So that is what we are going to get it as x is equal to r cos theta plus xc. So similarly, when we want a y coordinate value onto the circumference, anywhere onto the circumference, it's going to be r sin theta. Since the circle is not exactly at the center of the axis, that is at 0 comma 0, then this, what is the distance from the y-axis also has to be added up. If the circle was exactly at the center, starting where the center of the circle is 0 comma 0, having a radius r, then this xc and yc is not at all required to calculate any point onto this circumference. Okay, right? So this is the I mean, this is the representation of a circle, which is going to be made use equation made use to represent circle onto a system, right? Okay, right. So yes, that is what is actually uh, mentioned over here in this paragraph. Okay, and we can have what is the incremental value, that is the delta theta, that has to be for now. If you take up a circle, there'll be usually the maximum thing that it can go in for is about it will have 1024 lines, smaller lines that it has been made up of. It cannot go beyond that. Okay, that is the maximum limit. So that is what is the, so within that, so that's the higher limit for the value that we can have for the smaller segments. And similarly, if it is too small, very small lines, if this circumference is going to be made up of, then it's going to be very much difficult for the computational performance, where its efficiency will come down. Okay, so thereby this smaller increment length has to be should be limited. Okay, so that is why whenever we go in for drawing a circle, uh, the software has given us a limitation saying that we can give the angle for the circle to be drawn from 0 to 90 degrees or 0 to 90.5 degrees, right? But we cannot give the measurement as, say, for example, 60.00 and another 5 or 6 zeros, 0.543, right? That's a very small angle, right? So that limitation is, that is nothing but the incremental value to give the delta theta. That is for what smaller angles can we draw is the limitation that we will have, right? So it cannot be too small, like as I said. So we can go 60.5, 60.25, up to 3 or 4 decimal places. So each software has been programmed with this, with the smallest incremental value also, right? So that is very much important. If it is very small, it has to be ignored because it's going to hamper the performance or the efficiency of the computer in solving the problem. Okay, so yes, so we'll stop here for today.
Okay.